Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Subliminal Analyzing. So today, the topic that I have chosen to discuss with you is going to be time management. So if time management is something that you have struggled with, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'm planning on uploading content here every week and hoping to provide some solutions for problems that people have that they don't even necessarily realize they're having. A common problem currently in our world today is time management. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, what does that even mean? What is time management? Well, here's the details. So time management comes down to a simplest term of being where your time is spent on a daily basis. So if I'm at my job, which is a normal 40-hour-a-week job, then I need to understand a breakdown of every single minute of that 40 hours if I'm really going to be an effective time manager. Now, you may have a job that doesn't necessarily correlate to a specific work week, but if that's the case, you can use a metric that you determine that's something that means more to you. So when you're trying to figure out where your time is going, it really helps to build a map and start from scratch. If you have no idea where your time constraints are, then take some time each day and write down, keep a journal of what you're spending your time on. If you spend 5 minutes in the morning getting coffee and then another 15 minutes typing up emails, journal that. That way you can get a full picture of where your time is going on a daily basis, and if need be, you can build it up to whether it's a week or a day cycle or a monthly cycle, or maybe it's a 2-week cycle. Whatever the cycle that works for you and how your work gets completed, that's how you need to journal your time. Once you finish your journal, then you will have a good idea about how long it takes you to complete specific tasks that are correlated with your job. Using an example from a previous job that I had, I used to calculate fixed asset depreciation on a monthly basis. It was by far my worst and most difficult and time-consuming process. When I started the job, it literally took me 40 full hours a month to calculate and confirm all of the numbers for each of the assets. This was for a fairly good-sized company, so there was a lot of assets to calculate, but it did take a lot more time than it should have. So once I was able to actually take a step back and look at what was taking so much time, I realized that there was a lot of tasks that I was doing manually that were very easy to automate using a program that a lot of people already have access to, which is Excel. The benefit of that is that the information that I was getting was always coming in the same format, so I was able to build a model that automated that process and sped it up exponentially. I did make improvements over the next 3 years, and it got better and better as I went, but the first big improvement that I switched, I went from spending 40 hours a month on this to around 10. That's a huge savings. That's 75% of the time that it was taking me to originally do that. And so after that was done, I had 30 more hours to work on fixing other processes that were taking me too much time. So it may not be specifically your situation for something that takes such a substantial amount of time in your schedule. It may be something that's a higher volume. So for example, if you're somebody who fills out sales reports and you do that 10 times a day, and it takes you 10 minutes, then that's something where you could save a little bit of time on each sales report and still end up getting a huge savings in time. You don't think about it, but when you save, even if it's just a minute on something that you do 10 times a day and calculate how much time that saves you in a year, you've probably saved minimum of a week of time. So the benefit of doing something like this and understanding where your time is going is that it frees up your time and eliminates some of the stress that a lot of jobs can create, feeling like you have too much to do and not enough time to do it. When you actually realize where your time is going, you may figure out that you have a larger amount of times going towards things like meetings. You may be going to too many meetings. Now, not saying that meetings are unnecessary, but you may want to cut back the frequency or the amount of time spent in meetings, and then you may free up enough time to be able to finish everything you need to do in a reasonable amount of time. So from an employee's perspective, this will free up time, which in turn eliminates a lot of stress from time compression. So that is the benefit of improving your processes from an employee's perspective. But from an employer's perspective, you may commonly think that if I have an employee that starts getting all their tasks done in very short amounts of time, then I'm just going to give them more work to do to make sure that they fill that 40-hour work week. The problem with that is that's partially the wrong mentality to have, and here's why. So if I have an employee, especially in a larger company, that's able to eliminate, let's say, just for a sake of example, 75% of the time that it takes them to do 80% of their tasks, they have saved me a ton of time. That is a lot of time that gets saved. But the problem is that very often those employees who are very good at finding those efficiencies, they get loaded with more work on the back end, so that way that they still have enough time to do. And then they have busy work, which is not necessarily what you want these employees doing. If I had to choose, if I have an employee working for me and I have somebody who can get their entire job done in 20 hours when I expected it to take them 40, I'm okay with that when compared to having an employee who's working 60 hours to do the same job. They're going to get burnt out very quickly and run into even more amounts of stress, because now it may be because the process they have is broken, and it's one of the very common misconceptions that, you can give somebody a job and they should be able to do it in the amount of time that you give them. A broken process will defeat a great employee every single time. It's something I've heard many, many times from many people. So those are just some tips on how to get better at time management. So really, just to recap, spend some time, build yourself a journal, and just take a look at it, review it. And you may get to a point where you feel like you've got a really good handle on where things are right now. And it may be good to see where you're at in 6 months, and then do another time journal and figure out, oh, okay, well, I've improved in this area, but that doesn't mean that you can't improve in other areas just as much. So with that in mind, I appreciate you stopping by and would love to hear any kind of situations that you've had where you've found some time savings. So if you have a situation where you've saved a lot of time like that, leave a comment below. I would love to hear your personal stories. And thanks for stopping by here again at Subliminal Analyzing. And let's remember, let's always do better, even if it's just a little.